All right. Welcome to Blue Pill Podcast, everyone. This is Abe, your host. It is 1 p.m. November 8th, 2025. I'm off today. Thank God. Now, this week wasn't as bad as last week. Work has been a little rough here this month in general. But this week, knock on wood, it seems like things are kind of going back to normal. They're still chopping heads. There's a employee who's literally, my boss was talking to me, and there's an employee they're about to fire for missing lots of work. But it is what it is. So I talked to Matt Word yesterday. I did a podcast interview with him. Go check it out. It didn't get a lot of views. As weird as it sounds, like sometimes my interviews don't really get that much views, which is weird because in the podcasting game, most people say that, we want interviews. We want interviews. You need a co-host or interview, someone to bounce off of. And it is easier to podcast with someone else there. Like, I try to get Sammy on here as much as I can, but she doesn't mind podcasting every now and then, but she doesn't have, like, the love of podcasting like I do. So, one day, I would like the channel to blow up enough to where I could have a co-host, you know. So I talked to Matt Word yesterday. It was kind of sad because he's moving to New York, and I like him, man. He was a regular. We would talk conspiracies, you know. The interview that we did together was awesome. Go check it out. Probably my favorite part of the interview, and I used it as the thumbnail, was he told me about like some top secret project that his dad did where he got to see a tank get melted by like a direct energy weapon. So go check that episode out, dude. It's a banger. But yeah, it just kind of sucked because it was like the last time that I will probably physically see him. But I told him, he has my number. I said, keep in touch, man. We can still do like a podcast in the future together. I said it would just have to be over phone, you know, but the audio should be fine. I mean, the Miss McGillicuddy interviews I did, the Red Pill Paradigm interview, those were all over telephone, and audio turned out just fine for me, you know. But yeah, as far as the personal life update, that's about it. Just been cleaning up the channel. I added 2 new playlists, a 9/11 playlist, and there was another playlist that I added, but I can't remember. I have a Buy Me a Coffee account set up in the link below. If you donate money, that would be cool. It helps the channel. I haven't been able to podcast that much this week because of I had some issues with memory card, which obviously you're viewing me right now, so I fixed that. Cost me about $50. So it if you donate, it pays for stuff like that, you know. Had to get a memory card. But yeah, let's get into the game review, man. All right. So I have pulled up basically the Beyblade V-Force soundtrack, so that way you can kind of hear the music that goes on with this game. For Game Boy Advance, the music is actually pretty fucking sick. When I was playing, my wife was like, damn, you jamming over there. I'm like, because I'm playing on a SP. I'm like, yeah, the music's sick for Game Boy Advanced. You know, it's not like bit tunes or nothing. It's legit, like, most of the tracks are like either punk rock or honestly kind of like you can hear elements of like Dragon Force or there's even a couple tracks on the Beyblade soundtrack that literally reminded me of Avenged Sevenfold, like the guitar parts and shit. I was like, holy shit. I'm not sure what band it is who does the music, if it's one band or if it's multiple. Um, but the music is pretty sick. And it reminds me of like the old school animes back in the 90s and early 2000s. A lot of them did use like J-punk, you know, which you guys know me, I'm a punk. I'll be a punk till the day I die. I'll never stop being a punk. I don't care if I'm outdated, geezer, whatever. I love punk rock, the lifestyle, the culture. So I always did like growing up in the early 2000s, hearing a lot of J-punk and stuff in animes and stuff like that. So I have another podcast, Conspiracy Corner. And that's my main one. So I have to say, dude, I fell victim to definitely being a victim to media as a child. I was into like, especially when anything that came from Japan. I remember growing up and my dad being like, watching us watch Dragon Ball Z, and he's like, I don't get it. You know, cartoons suck now. This ain't as good as Looney Tunes, you know? And we would laugh and we're like, Dad, this is like better than Looney Tunes because it's like an actual story with multiple episodes and story arcs and character development. And he just didn't get it. He was like, to him, cartoons should have been just like animals bashing each other over the head with mallets and shit. Looney Tunes, you know, that was his idea of cartoons. He didn't understand anime. He thought it was weird. But I fell for it all, dude, when it came to blue pilling as far as Japanese content. Mostly anime. So like my big thing was Pokemon, dude. And this all ties together. I just kind of want to explain how I got into Beyblades in general. My big thing was Pokemon. That was my first big thing that I was huge on, as far as consumerism with anime. My first anime that I was huge on was like Dragon Ball Z, right? I think most Americans, that was their, and I think honestly most Americans, we got Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, and like everyone just leached onto Dragon Ball Z and loved it. It was like the first time that Americans truly were exposed to like an anime that it just hooked them, you know, at least in my experience. So Dragon Ball Z got me into anime. My oldest brother was a huge Dragon Ball Z fan. But as far as the consumerism aspect, Pokemon got me, dude. So I got into Pokemon as far as collecting the Pokemon cards. I used to collect Pokeballs with little Pokemon toys in them. And as a kid, it was so cool to like throw it on the ground and it bust open and the Pokemon flies out. And then like you play with toys, battling your brother's Pokemon, you know, like, and you felt like a trainer, you know. So the next thing that I got into after Pokemon, as far as consumerism, would have been Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Got me, man. Like, and it felt so cool at the time because I was super young, a little boy, when I was into Pokemon. And then Yu-Gi-Oh! I felt like came at the perfect time of childhood to where I was kind of like preteen, you know? And it felt edgier. We had to be careful watching it. We had to kind of hide it from our parents because there was like Egyptian gods and goddesses and Egyptology and a little boy who gets possessed by a ghost of a pharaoh. And the monsters were edgier. Like some of the cards had pentagrams on them and magic circles, and it had sorcery and magic and djinn and dark shit, you know. And my dad was a preacher. My parents were super religious, super strict. So we had to hide a lot of that shit. But, I do feel bad. So when I got into Beyblades, Beyblades had come in to the scene, and honestly, I was starting to get bored with Yu-Gi-Oh! And I could tell, like, when Yu-Gi-Oh! First came out, like, the first several years of playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's fun playing cards. I loved Yu-Gi-Oh! Battling and stuff. But when Beyblades came in, it was, like, more physical, you know? You're actually launching this Beyblade. They're battling. It's physical. It's not just sitting there flipping cards using your imagination, you know? And that's what hooked me, man. As a little kid, it was like, dude, this is cool. This is like a sport, you know? This is like, you gotta have strategy on, I'll come in at this angle and spin it. Or I'll do a slower spin. Or I'll, you know, launch it and make it hop and try to hop on top of him. Or shit like that. It was just more physical action, you know? And, yeah, I kind of faded out of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I feel bad because my oldest brother was trying to kind of come back into our lives because, and I don't blame him, but he was off kind of with his girlfriend and wife and stuff and doing his own thing, and there's such a huge age gap, but he was inviting us over more and like trying to get back in our lives. So he got into Yu-Gi-Oh! And we battled like one time, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not really into Yu-Gi-Oh! Anymore. I'm into Beyblades now. And he had spent all this money on cards and was learning how to play. Which is funny now, the older I am, I'm like, now I currently play Yu-Gi-Oh! Still. So like, maybe one day he'll get back into it and we'll play or something, but not gonna lie, dude. He plays Beyblades with one of his patients he was telling me about, because he's like at home. He takes care of like children and stuff, and one of them was into Beyblades. So he ended up buying a Beyblade and playing Beyblades with this guy. And I was like, I'm not going to lie, I'm 34 years old this month. I would still probably play Beyblades. It's fucking neat. It's fucking cool. So yeah, I remember getting into Beyblades. I had a hand-me-down Beyblade that someone gave me with a generic Bit Beast. I didn't know it was generic until someone burst my bubble. The generic one was like a wolf. And I was like, oh, this is so cool, because Silver Fang was my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. As a kid and as an adult, I've always loved wolf imagery. For the longest time, I thought my spirit animal was a wolf, and then turns out it was a rabbit. But, yeah, like, I ain't gonna lie. I love wolf imagery, and I'm that weird dork who wears wolf t-shirts, you know? It's just a cool animal. So, that was my Bit Beast. I had a generic hand-me-down, which was like 2 or 3 different Beyblades smashed together, that some weird hybrid that... Hey, I was grateful because my family, you know, we were well taken care of, but, you know, like, I knew that my parents wouldn't be like, yeah, I'm going to spend $20 on a Beyblade, you know, this stupid top that you'll play with for 5 minutes. You know, they just probably wouldn't have done it, you know. So I was grateful for the hand-me-down. And Andy Pittman, my best friend, he's a content creator, a YouTuber now. His channel is The 90s Are Rad. Go check him out. Shout outs to him. But he would come over. This was my best friend down in Florida, and we would battle Beyblades for hours at night, dude. Um, and it was kind of cute. Like, it's cute, and it's one of my memories that I'll never forget, and it's just a childhood memory that even to this day I can't. Every now and then I remember it and smile. So we had I didn't even have an arena. We were like doing poor man shit. So my little brother for Christmas one year had gotten a miniature air hockey table with ridges, and you could turn it on and the air would come up, and the two goals on each side. So we had lost like the little disc and the hand things, and I was like, dude, this is a perfect Beyblade arena. It was flat, but you could hit the ridges and bounce, and it actually really was genuinely the perfect Beyblade arena. And I would turn the air on when we had batteries. Eventually the batteries ran out and we just didn't have the air anymore, but we used that as the Beyblade arena, and it really was a good arena. But yeah, dude, like we played Beyblades for fucking hours, and I remember he would stay the night, and as a little kid having a sleepover, dude, the next morning, like, you get up ass crack of dawn because it's like Christmas, you know. You're like, what are we gonna do today? We got all day. It's summer vacation. I remember getting up at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and me and him just wanting to do a Beyblade battle so bad, but we lived in a double wide, and the walls were like super thin, and my parents would have woke up and been pissed, like, what's all that noise? It's 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, you know, go back to bed. So like we had to wait for them to get up, and it just felt like it was forever. I'm like, get up, mom and dad, so me and Andy can play Beyblades, you know. But yeah, that's my introduction to Beyblades. Sorry it was so long, but let's get back to the game review. So graphically, you're at like an angle, like in a corner, and it's all kind of like an angle. Graphically, the Beyblades look beautiful. The levels, okay, I'm just gonna say this straight up, and I'm gonna show you my age a little bit. This is a Marble Madness clone, to an extent. So back in like the 90s, there was this game called Marble Madness, and I think it was for Nintendo. It could have been Super Nintendo, but for some reason I think it was for original Nintendo. I could be wrong. And it was my older brother's, one of his favorite games. And essentially you're a marble, you're dropped onto a field, and you have to like control it and roll it to a finish line, a goal. And with this, I actually kind of like the concept of V-Force specifically. Apparently there is other Beyblade games for the Game Boy Advance, because you guys know that I'm going through the Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance library. That's why all my game reviews, check out the playlist by the way, I've done other game reviews, have been just those carts. I don't know why. Earlier this year, I was just like, I'm going to play through the Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance library. You know? Actual physical carts. It's cheap. It's fun. It occupies my time. You know? Yeah, essentially it's Marble Madness. And, with the other Beyblade games, V-Force, I kind of checked out just a little bit the other Beyblade games, and the other ones look like they're strictly just battles. Now with V-Force, this one does have battles, but it's kind of cool. So it's set up, you have like 3 or 4 stages where it's like Marble Madness clone, to where you have a start line and you have to make it down ramps. Some of them you have to jump over gaps, and you can't fall off. There's no railings, so like there's certain parts it's fucking like you're like, ugh, you're on the edge of your seat. This is definitely a game like you have to sit upright and play. You can't be chilling, man, because it's a lot of dexterity. It's all pretty much control pad, but you do use the A button to like dash, sprint. That's the only way I can describe it. Of like, you know, I guess your blade would be leaning and dashing. So when you get launched in, you have the Ripper, whatever it's called, the launcher, and it's like a scale. It's like, and you have to hit it at the very top. You can get like a perfect, or like try to get as close as you can to getting a perfect, and that gives you the most speed and most stability from the get-go. So like the more you battle other Beyblades on this field to get to the finish line, it's gonna slow you down. Certain attacks, if they hit you at a certain angle, it might knock you off the field or make you wobble. And when you wobble, when you start wobbling, it gets harder to control. So when you're going through like the courses and stuff, it has a meter on the side, a little green meter. So like you want to get the best rip right out the gate, because some of these courses, although they're little courses, you will lose stamina by the end depending on how you control your Beyblade, because you are controlling it. How many other Beyblades you're battling. Sometimes you can battle another Beyblade, or it's sometimes, if you know the course, it's kind of better to just run past them. Well, not run, but go past them. You know, like I ain't got time to battle. You know, I need my stamina to get to the finish line. So you pick and choose your battles, like, but the mechanics, it's a Marble Madness clone, but with Marble Madness, you feel like you are a marble, a ball. With this, for Game Boy Advanced, it was pretty impressive. Like, you feel like you are a Beyblade. You are controlling a Beyblade, and the way it spins, the way it wobbles, the way it bounces. You have to, like, if you hit a wall and it bounces off real fast, you have to hit in the opposite direction, like, as hard as you can to get it, okay, don't fall off, you know? It keeps you on the edge of your seat, definitely. So, with the levels, man, like, Sammy was like, wow, this is like the levels are super short at the beginning, because it's kind of tutorial. First several levels are tutorial. And you're like, okay, this is pretty chill. The levels really only last like a minute, maybe 2 minutes tops. It's a really good game for like smoke breaks at work. If you're an adult, you know, who's playing retro kids games. If you're a nerd like me, it's really good for like smoke breaks at work. Like bringing your Game Boy, having it in your pocket. Oh, I get a smoke break. Or like my old job, not this job now. We don't get breaks on this job now. We just kind of smoke whenever we can, which I'm pretty sure is illegal, but that's a whole nother story. But it's really good for like, okay, I got 10 minutes. You know, turn it on, run through a course, you know, save it, turn it off. So if you have a busy lifestyle, it's really good for that. I kind of liked that, because sometimes, man, that's the most aggravating thing for me, is like when you're playing a game and you're like, oh, I got 20 minutes before I have to leave to go to work. And turns out the level that you're playing, you have to wait for a save state, and it's like, oh, this is a 30, 40-minute level or segment of the game. Like, fuck, man, now I got to turn it off. Either turn it off and redo it when I get home, or leave it on all day, and then that burns images in your screen and ruins it, unless it has sleep mode. But I've put games to sleep on sleep mode, and not been able to wake them back up and have to turn it off and redo it anyways. And I'm like, fuck, now I just wasted battery life, you know? So I did love that aspect as someone who's busy doing 6 hours worth of podcasting per week, sometimes 13, 14 episodes a week, plus a full-time 40-hour job, plus just cleaning, doing chores, doing stuff on days off with the missus, like, that, I have a busy life, you know, and it is nice to be able to just pick something up, play it for 2 seconds, put it down, and kind of do that throughout the day, you know. So this is made by Atari. That was like basic, well, actually, here you go, I'll show you, because it's still up. No, never mind, you can't see it that well, but that's the main brand that's on the front of it. So I did another game review, it was either last year or earlier this year, of Yu Yu Hakusho. It's a free roam, sandbox, beat 'em up, overhead beat 'em up though. It feels like GTA without driving cars. You're like a little city punk roaming around the city, fighting Kuwabaras, gang members, you know. It's cool as fuck. It's one of my favorite fucking games. I love it. It was made by Atari too, so Atari was getting into definitely making anime games. And they were smart to do it. Beyblade was huge at the time. Yu Yu Hakusho was not really that big, but it was on Toonami. It still has its fan base. Like, I love Yu Yu Hakusho. Every now and then I'll run across someone who has like a Yu Yu Hakusho t-shirt, and I'm like, dude, Yu Yu Hakusho. Like, we got our own little fan base going on. It's still kind of popular today, but Atari was smart in the early 2000s of like, hey, you know, because all they had was like, they were big in the 90s, like with Sega Genesis, with fucking, because the Genesis and the Super Nintendo were battling it out of who had the better system. And then Sega honestly kind of lost the battle. Sega does what Nintendo don't, you know. That was the commercial. But they kind of lost the battle, and the only thing they had that really kept them going was Sonic, you know. So it was really smart for Atari, or I'm talking Atari, not Sega. God damn it, sorry. Atari though was still like, it was, no, Atari lost to Nintendo, original Nintendo, NES. I don't know why I was thinking Sega. I'm so sorry. I'm a burnout. But they in the early 2000s bought up like rights to make games for anime games. And all I was trying to say, being long-winded and a burnout and saying Sega instead of Atari, I apologize, was it was very smart on their part, because it kept them going as a company to franchise and like get into making anime games, you know, especially for the younger audience. I don't know, I was just saying, as someone who wants to be one day an entrepreneur, it's like, smart move, Atari. Like, make a Yu Yu Hakusho game, which I did a game review on it. Go check it out. Maybe I'll put it in the link below, if you're listening on Spotify. But yeah, dude, like, real fucking smart. And Beyblade was fucking popular in the 2000s, early 2000s, because apparently, I looked it up, there's like multiple Beyblade games, for Game Boy Advance, which I'm not going to go out and buy them, but if I come across them and they're cheap, I'll probably pick them up and do reviews on them also. This game, though, is one of the very few games that has a multiplayer where I'm like, oh, Sammy, we've got to get another cart, because the replayability and the multiplayer factor of this, really makes me want to do it, because you can collect Beyblades, you can alter the Beyblades in like the bit shop or whatever. There is multiplayer battle mode where you use the link cable with 2 cartridges, so like she could have her own file and her own collection of Beyblades, and I could have my file and collection of Beyblades, and we could both battle our Beyblades against each other, like, and it feels legit, you know. So I don't know. I'm definitely gonna pick up another cart because I have link cables, and I need to get another SP, and I'm gonna Beyblade battle with my wife, dude. Do some nerd shit because she's a nerd too. I hope you guys enjoyed the game review. Honestly, at the end of the day, I give this game, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 because I did get like stuck and shit. About halfway through the game, the difficulty ramps up like hard, dude. As far as like the Marble Madness shit. The actual battles themselves, I didn't have really that much of an issue on, but yeah, dude, the difficulty ramps up like at the halfway point, like to where it becomes ridiculous. But yeah, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Love y'all. Maybe I'm off today, so me and Sammy, we're gonna probably go to the park and get outside and get in nature a little bit before it gets too cold and nasty here in Kentucky, to where we're not able to do that anymore this year. But we're gonna try to enjoy today. So if I don't put out any more episodes today, I apologize, but I have a life and a wife, and happy wife equals happy life, and I want to spend time with her too. But I may put out some more episodes today. We shall see. I love y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed today's episode and game review, and hopefully it was reminiscent for you. And let me know in the comments below if you kind of had the same type of childhood that I had or similar stories. I would love to hear them. See you guys.